Every single time a Marvel movie hits theaters, we know it's never going to contain every last scene we might want to see, especially when it's a major film like Avengers Endgame. But did we really deserve to have the reunion of Steve Rogers and his nemesis Red Skull happen off-screen? We'll take a look at what the Russo brothers have to say about this, and why it might not have been the Soul Stone showdown we were hoping for. Recently, the villain roster of the MCU has gotten a little bit sparse. It seems like most villains emerge and are struck down in a single film, and we recently said goodbye to long-term villains Loki and Thanos. But one of Captain America's most prolific foes has been out there somewhere. We just didn't know exactly where until Avengers Infinity War hit theaters. Johann Schmidt, better known as Red Skull, desperately wanted to get his hands on the Space Stone. But it didn't quite feel the same way about him. It was unclear what happened to him after he grabbed it in Captain America the First Avenger, but we now know it transported him to Vormir in order to stand watch over the Soul Stone. He'd wanted to obtain an Infinity Stone more than anything, and he ended up stuck with the one stone he couldn't possess. Now that is ironic. We saw him greet Gamora and Thanos in Infinity War, and Clint, Barton, and Natasha Romanoff in Endgame. But there was one more interaction he had that didn't make it into the final movie, much to our dismay. After the whole defeating Thanos and saving the world thing was over, Steve Rogers volunteered to tie up some loose ends. He was tasked with returning the Infinity Stones to their respective places on the timeline, which meant coming face to face with the Red Skull. Wait, how does one return the Soul Stone? Is there some kind of proper procedure for putting it back? Is there a take a soul, leave a soul system at play? Well, if you're really wondering about the process, the writers of Endgame have actually thought about it as well. According to screenwriters Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, there's a slot on Vormir designed to accept the Soul Stone. After it's inserted, it's whisked away to parts unknown, like when you use the tube in the drive-thru at a bank. Okay, we know you're not wondering how Steve literally returned the Soul Stone. You want to know what happened when Red Skull and Steve Rogers came face to face with one another once more. And Marcus and McFeely wanted to show it to you, but they just didn't have the chance. Let's not forget these guys were also responsible for penning the Captain America movies, so it's safe to say they're fans of Steve Rogers and Red Skull. They were disappointed not to be able to explore this in the movie, but they say it just wasn't the time to explore more of Cap's story. That's a fair answer, but it doesn't mean we have to like it. However, the Russo brothers filled in some details about Red Skull, which helped us imagine what could have gone down on Vormir. After all, we all know the Russo brothers are big fans of Red Skull as well. They've admitted they love the idea of including him in more movies, which is how he ended up on Vormir in the first place. Following Infinity War, when Thanos took possession of the Soul Stone, everyone wanted to know what this meant for Red Skull. They stated that once the Soul Stone was gone, Red Skull was free of his obligation to it and could now pursue his own goals. Yeah, that might sound almost inspiring if Red Skull's goals weren't all really terrible. Plus, how the heck's he going to get off of Vormir? Following the release of Avengers Endgame, Joe Russo elaborated that Red Skull had been changed during his time with the Soul Stone. Yeah, apparently spending decades guarding a magical mineral really takes its toll on someone. He claims that the Red Skull Steve Rogers met on Vormir wasn't the same as the one he had a confrontation with so long ago. Apparently, Red Skull is really just a shell of the person he was when we saw him in Captain America the First Avenger. Russo compared him to a ghost and says he's a completely different entity. Apparently, he only exists to guard the Soul Stone, and it's entirely possible his past consciousness doesn't even exist anymore. When he's on duty, he's less worried about creating the perfect human race and more concerned with greeting people, letting them know who their parents are, and filling them in on the Soul Stone's rules. When Steve goes to Vormir, let's not forget that he's going back in time. He returns to a time before Thanos gets the Soul Stone, so Red Skull is still 100% on duty. If the stone is there, Red Skull is nearby, ready to creep people out, and since that's his primary duty, he has no need or motivation to fight someone he once had issues with an entire lifetime ago. But what about Steve Rogers? Wouldn't he want to take down Red Skull if given the opportunity? Well, in a way, this hero has an obligation to the Soul Stone. He's on a mission to return all of the stones to their rightful places, not to fight with the Red Skull. We all know Steve takes his mission seriously, and Joe Russo seems to think he wouldn't want to waste time battling an old enemy. So if you regret not getting to see this interaction on the big screen, you're definitely not alone. But you also probably didn't miss that much. It sounds like at best it was probably just an awkward interaction and not an epic battle or a meaningful confrontation. But is that it for Red Skull? According to the MCU rules of time travel, the Infinity Stones are gone in the present day for all intents and purposes. So Red Skull is free of his obligations per the Russo Brothers' comments following Infinity War. As for Steve Rogers, he's retired from crime fighting in the present day. In the comic books, Steve ages when the super soldier serum is negated during a confrontation with the Iron Nail. But he eventually regains his youthful appearance, so there's a precedent for Steve getting back in action, and it could happen at some point in the MCU's future as well. We don't like to rule things out completely, but it certainly seems as though Red Skull and Steve Rogers won't be going up against each other anytime soon. But Red Skull and Sam Wilson, on the other hand, now that is something we wouldn't mind heading to the theater to see. What do you think about Red Skull and Steve Rogers interacting off-screen in Endgame? What do you think the MCU has in store for Johann Schmidt? Take a moment to share your thoughts with us in the comment section below, and then click on that subscribe button for more videos from us here at CBR. Bye for now.